The ranks of the Russian Imperial Navy during the First World War had their own specific system of hierarchy and insignia, which differed from those of the Army. First of all, it is worth paying attention to the lower ranks, sailors. At that time they did not wear insignia indicating a specific rank, and their epaulettes contained only letters denoting naval affiliation. For example, BF meant service in the Baltic Fleet. Although the charter formally provided for the division into sailors of the first article and sailors of the second article, this was not reflected in the epaulettes. The only cross patch on the epaulette could only indicate the military specialty, helmsman, signalman, or marshal, but was not a separate rank. The next step in the naval hierarchy were 3 non-commissioned officer ranks. The first and the youngest of them is a non-commissioned officer, who can be recognized by 2 transverse patches on the epaulettes. If there were already 3 cross patches on the epaulettes, it meant the rank of bosunmate, or assistant bosun, actually the senior non-commissioned officer in the bosun's team. The bosun himself was entitled to 1 wide cross patch on the epaulette. The bosun was responsible not only for the order on deck, sails, on sailing ships, or spars, but also for part of the ship's economy, especially if it was about large ships. A separate category was the rank of conductor, which was given to non-commissioned officers who had specialized professional education. Conductor was characterized by the fact that on the epaulette there was 1 wide longitudinal, horizontal stripe, and next to it, a special emblem indicating his profile. Thus, the epaulettes of the mine machine conductor bore a sign associated with mines and machinery, the artillery conductor wore an emblem in the form of 2 crossed guns, and the helmsman, signal, bilge, or stoker conductor had their respective symbols. These specialists not only performed the functions of their respective parts, but also trained the sailors in their professional skills. The senior bosun, who led the entire bosun's team and coordinated the work of the ship's conductors, had a distinctive sign in the form of an anchor on the epaulette with a wide longitudinal stripe. As for the officer staff, the youngest officer level in the Russian Navy during the First World War was considered to be midshipman. He could be recognized by the officer's type of epaulettes with 1 narrow longitudinal stripe in the middle, and the number of stars indicated the length of service and some other features. As a rule, a midshipman at that period was entitled to 2 stars on his epaulettes. Gradually, as an officer advanced in service, he could get higher ranks, for example, lieutenant or senior lieutenant and further, where the number of stars and the width of the longitudinal stripes on the epaulettes increased. Thus, the system of ranks and insignia in the Russian Imperial Navy was not limited only to the formal hierarchy of sailor, non-commissioned officer. It included an extensive set of intermediate steps and specializations, bosuns, conductors, senior bosuns, etc., reflecting the real need of the fleet in qualified specialists. At the same time, lower ranks, especially sailors, often did not have clear symbols on their epaulettes, except for fleet designations, e.g., BF for the Baltic, and the actual position of certain sailors was determined mainly by experience, service documents, and informal reputation in the crew. 3 stars on the epaulettes in the Russian Imperial Navy during the First World War were worn by lieutenants, and this may mislead those who are accustomed to later Soviet norms. In the Red Army, and then in the Soviet Army, this number of stars was already assigned to a senior lieutenant. The fact is that the rank of senior lieutenant in the pre-revolutionary Navy looked different and had no stars on the epaulettes at all. Moreover, the very system of ranks in the Russian Imperial Navy in the early 20th century was repeatedly reformed. For example, the rank of captain lieutenant was abolished in 1911, and it was never replaced by anything similar to the captain of the 3rd rank, which is in the modern Russian Navy. In other words, at that time there was not only no captain of the 3rd rank, but also its conventional Army analog major, if we draw a parallel between the Navy and the land forces. There were only captain of the 2nd rank and captain of the 1st rank. These ranks corresponded to higher levels of command in the naval hierarchy. In particular, the captain of the 2nd rank wore epaulettes with 3 stars and 2 narrow longitudinal stripes, but the captain of the 1st rank did without stars, but the epaulettes had the same 2 narrow longitudinal stripes, which indicated senior officers. Unlike positions resembling the rank system of other countries, in the Russian Navy during the First World War certain positions and titles of rank disappeared and appeared together with the reforms carried out on the initiative of the Maritime Ministry and personal orders of the Emperor. As for the admiral's ranks, they included 4 ranks: counter-admiral, vice-admiral, admiral, and general admiral. A distinctive feature of Russian admirals were special coats of arms, state emblems, embroidered on the epaulettes. In this case, one coat of arms denoted the rank of rear admiral. For example, this was the epaulet worn by Nikolai Georgievich Lvov, who during the First World War commanded the transport flotillas on the Black Sea. If there were 2 coats of arms, then in front of you vice admiral. 3 coats of arms on the epaulettes corresponded to the admiral. Such, in particular, was Nikolai Ottovich von Essen, who commanded the Baltic Fleet. The highest rank was Admiral General, but during World War I it was not assigned to anyone. The last Admiral General in the history of Russia was Tsar Alexei Alexandrovich, son of Emperor Alexander II, who died in 1908. Thus, to build direct analogies between the ranks of the Imperial, Soviet, and modern Russian Navy should take into account the fact that the pre-revolutionary system was voluntarily or involuntarily changed. Some ranks were abolished, and some of the senior ranks remained formally existed, but in fact did not apply. This explains the discrepancies in the number of stars and titles of ranks, which, at first glance, may confuse researchers relying solely on Soviet or modern standards. I want to apologize in advance for any errors in the text or voiceover. I am still learning, and the channel language is not my native language. The voiceovers are done by artificial intelligence, so if you notice any inaccuracies, please let me know so I can fix them and improve the quality of the content. I'd also welcome your feedback and thoughts on the topic. Your support in the comments motivates me to keep finding new and exciting stories. Thank you for your understanding and participation. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you don't miss new stories.